Hi, friend. Welcome back to another episode of Beyond Wellness Culture. I am so excited you are here today, and we are going through part four of this four-part series on body theology. This whole month, I have been highlighting different aspects of body theology, and I'm going to end this whole entire series on something that honestly has been very, very difficult for me. And that is the concept of rest. So many of us, and I know, friend, you are probably feeling this too, but so many of us have such a hard time really allowing ourselves to truly rest. Rest, like taking that breath, taking those moments just to recharge. We are looking at rest as something to be earned, something that we have to do all of these things to end up in a place where we can rest. And I struggle with this. I really, truly struggle with this. And I know that you probably feel certain moments of this as well, where you're checking all the boxes, you are making sure the family is staying alive, the kids running off to work, doing what you're doing in your business, all of those things, as well as adding on the health and well being protocols, techniques, the tools, all of those things also. And that can just make us feel so overwhelmed. And we really have to talk about this today because forcing shows up not just in your life, but it shows up in your health, in your schedule, and even in your worship. And no, nothing exposes that faster than rest. See, we've spent this whole series building a case that the body was designed with intention, that optimization without reverence can slide into idolatry. And your body inside and out is treated like a temple, sacred temple, and it's not incidental. So, just as I mentioned earlier, we are closing out this entire series based on the one practice that proves whether you actually believe any of the 3 weeks that we just went through matter, and that is the rest. This actually goes all the way to the very beginning. In Genesis, we're told that God rested on the seventh day. We read that, we say, "Oh yeah, God rested, and so we have Sundays and we're going to rest, or we have whatever day of the week and we're going to rest." But do we really? See, God rested not because he was tired, but to establish a rhythm for us. And this is so difficult for so many of us high achieving women who are pushing and burning the candle at both ends. And this is a topic that I'm learning to embody every single week myself. And even having moments of rest throughout my day myself. See, this is something I'm not coming at you like, I've got this all figured out and this is what you got to do. But this is something that I'm also working through. So we need to think about what this really truly means when God rested, not because he was tired, but to establish a rhythm. What does that mean? The creator of the universe who had just spoken with his mouth the galaxies into existence, he chose to stop, not out of necessity, but out of design. That same rhythm shows up later, this time codified into the law that he gave the Israelites to follow. In Exodus, the Sabbath command carries the same weight as the commands against stealing and murder. I want to say that again. The same command to rest on Sabbath day has the same weight as the commands for murder and stealing. It's not a suggestion tucked away as an afterthought. It's placed directly among the 10 commandments, the foundational moral law that was given to Israel. Put those two together, and here's what you get. Rest was never a reward. No, see, rest was never a reward for finishing. It was built into the design from the very start. And that's worth sitting with because most of us are taught the exact opposite. We're taught that rest is what you earn after you've proven you deserve it. So I did all of the tasks that I set out before me to get done. So now I can take a nap. Or I did all of these things. So therefore I can take a rest. But see, the problem is we're not even resting in those moments. So even if we do check all the boxes or finish all the tasks or take care of what we need to take, and then we say we're going to reward ourselves with a nap. Tell me, friend, are you actually taking that reward? I mean, a lot of us, and I'm again speaking for myself, we are doing rest as a coming down full on, like fall into the ground, hitting the bed, crashing out. Because we're not even resting when we hit those check boxes. But then we're like pushing ourselves to the next thing. Well, I have an extra 45 minutes while the kids are sleeping, or I have an extra wherever you place in your daily schedule and you will put something else there. I am so guilty of this. I'm so, so guilty of this. And this is what we need to talk about in this next segment right now. If rest was built into the design, why does it feel so hard to actually do it? In a culture and in a body that's trained to optimize and manage everything, stopping on purpose feels like we're falling behind, especially in a culture that's grind, 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 grind. Sleep 4 hours a day, wake up, do these things, make sure you're staying fit, well, all of the cultural things that are being spoken to us. But are they really true to what your body needs? So, rest can feel like losing control, especially if you've used forcing and managing as a way to feel safe. And this ties the whole series all together: biohacking, symptom chasing, overscheduling, all forms of resisting rest. Every single pattern we've talked about across this entire series: chasing symptoms, optimizing the body into idolatry, treating yourself like a machine, they all share one thing in common. None of them leave room for you to actually stop. I said that earlier too. If forcing and managing have been how you've stayed safe, then rest is going to feel less like relief and more like a risk. Man, I've been sitting with myself in quiet moments of rest, just setting my phone down and just sitting. And I'm telling you, and I don't mean any disrespect, but it is like a drug addict on withdrawals. I'm squirming in my skin, feeling like I'm having twitches. It is the most bizarre thing. And I recognize that as withdrawals. And I'm allowing my body to move through it. I'm praying in those moments. I'm asking the Lord to come in and just settle my spirit, to know that this rest is okay. It's not weakness. And that is what happens when control has been your survival strategy for a long time. If I just do enough, then these results are going to happen. We do this with our work schedule. We do this how we treat our spouses, how we treat our kids. We do this with everything. We do this with how we do church and worship and spend time with God. We control every aspect. And a huge big tie into beyond wellness culture, we do this with our health. We do this with our bodies. So let's take a moment to talk about what rest actually requires underneath the surface. Choosing to stop when there's more that could be done is a statement of trust. And that is something when I'm telling you I'm wiggling out in my bed, sitting there like bone down, no TV on, no nothing. I'm wiggling it out. That is me having to choose trust in those moments. Trust that your health, your business, your family, everything is going to be held together without your constant management. It is tough. It is very, very tough. But I can tell you, working on just having a discipline, if you're going to have discipline with anything, it is discipline to allow yourself to truly rest. Because scripture gives us a very clear example of what this is in the manna story back in Exodus 16. See, God provided enough for each day, and any hoarded extra spoiled by morning. The only time he allowed them to collect extra was on that sixth day because he knew on the seventh day he wanted them resting. So when they collected the manna on that sixth day, those extra did not spoil into that seventh day because they were commanded to rest. He did not want them collecting manna on that seventh day. And they were provided for. He took care of them and they could trust that that was what was happening. See, God didn't command rest and leave the people to figure out how to survive and figure it all out. No, He's Jehovah Jireh. He made provision for it in advance. Rest is trusting that there will be enough tomorrow because the same God who provided today is the one that is providing tomorrow. And it's also the same God who provided today. He's going to give you the endurance and the ability to get through everything that needs to be done for tomorrow. We don't need to overfill our plates with all these different things and all these different tasks for each day. We will have the ability to get through what we need to do tomorrow. It's not about being lazy. It's not about saying, kicking the can down the road, kicking the can down the road. No, but it's being a good steward of the time that you have in front of you while also allowing yourself to truly take a rest, truly take a moment to just exhale and know that God is providing and He's going to continue to provide. And to be quite honest with you, this has been something very difficult for me to do, to shut it down. Because when I have moments in my schedule to work on getting something done, rather than allowing it to be put on the schedule for tomorrow, I push myself to do it. And I'm being convicted a lot recently about this. Like, how much am I working on striving in my own power and striving with this sense of control and really not allowing God to step up and provide? Am I trusting? Am I having faith in this? These are the things that we need to talk about. I'm talking about the overarching aspects of rest, but we need to bring this back to the body for a moment. I've been talking our schedules and how we approach things and all of it, but I want this episode too to talk about how we do it with our bodies because rest isn't just sleeping. It's not just sleeping. Sleeping is so powerful. It's the most healing thing we can do, but sleep is not rest. Let me tell you that because some people sleep and they wake up unrested. And you might have felt those things too. And I've experienced those. Rest, true rest, is actual nervous system regulation. It's letting your body downshift out of fight or flight or freeze and into that rest and digest. Practically, that looks like slower breathing, less input, and permission to be still without producing anything. Going back to that story where I feel like that drug addict going through withdrawals, just sitting in my bed with no phone, no TV, no nothing on it. These aren't even dark hours. Sometimes it's just later in the afternoon, 4 or 5 o'clock, that I'll sit there for maybe 10 to 15 minutes just to let myself work through all the stuff. And I'm like squirmy and I'm feeling like I can, working from home can be both a blessing and a curse. And so I'm like, I can get up and get into my office and get on my computer and be doing something with these 15 minutes, or I could be stacking this time and doing this and doing that. And I have to just shut it all down. And I have to let my body shift out of that fight or flight because we don't need to be putting more input in. It's the less inputs and permission to just be still and spending those moments with the Lord. Rest is truly where healing can consolidate and your body does the deepest repair work when it isn't being asked to perform, when it isn't being pushed. And this connects directly back to episode 53, where I talked about self limiting symptoms. Remember, your body often finishes its own repair work quietly in the background. So often we are trying to help it out and we're giving it all these things and we're like, nope, you better perform on my timeline. And it's like, no, no, no. When it is finally able to have those quiet moments and it can do its repair work in the background, that is when it finally gets the chance. And rest is what gives it that chance. So here's what I want you to actually do with this. I want you to pause and notice what resistance comes up at the idea of doing nothing. When I'm sharing with you those moments that I'm laying in the bed, just letting my body just work itself out, what comes up for you when you hear that? That resistance is information, not a flaw to push past. I want you then to take a moment to connect. to connect to what you're afraid will happen if you stop. If you don't use those 15 minutes appropriately, are you going to put you really far behind? Is it going to take you out? Is it going to throw your entire schedule off? What is going to happen? And I think it's a moment to share this right now because I think a lot of people, what we do is we end up putting somebody else's plan in place as our own. And instead of adopting what I'm doing, I'm sharing what I'm doing as a means to encourage you to work on mentally figuring out a plan that works for you. Not telling you you need to sit in your bed at 4 o'clock in the afternoon with no phone and no TV. That could be sitting in your car for 3 minutes or 30 seconds or 15 seconds or whatever it looks like just to take some deep breaths. Your plan does not need to be my plan. And I'm still working my thing out, right? Like I'm still working it out. It may not always be 15 minutes. There is so much diversity that is needed when we are working with our bodies in the best scenario, in the best case. Everything has diversity. Let me just make that clear. Everything. We're not static beings. Nothing stays static. Even our day to day activities, we can drive to work the same way. We can get up at the same exact time. We can do all these things the exact same way, yet still nothing is static. You're not driving next to the same exact car every single time. You're not wearing the same exact clothes. Maybe you have to wear a uniform to work. You're not in the same underwear or the same, you catch my drift. There is diversity. I don't need to go down a long, really weird rabbit trail on that, but you get it, right? So don't adopt my plan as your plan. I want this to encourage you to just start seeing rest in a different light. Start seeing it in a different way. And may it encourage you to actually go, okay, do I need to just take a couple moments of quiet time, right? To connect and feel into like, what's going to happen if I do this? Like, oh my gosh. And then move it through. This is the Body OS framework. You've heard this on so many different episodes. Pause, connect, ask, and adjust. On that third step, you're going to ask across different pillars. Am I fearful like something physical is going to happen? Am I fearful that spiritually things are going to not happen the way that they're supposed to happen because I didn't do all the things that God told me to do? How much of us are treating our faith like a checkbox? Okay, God, I prayed. Okay, God, I read. Okay, God, I did this. Okay, God, what are we doing spiritually? How are we acting emotionally? What are we afraid emotionally that's gonna happen? Like, "Oh my gosh, I'm not gonna be able to" and mentally, right? I got ADHD, I'm just gonna say it, and I'm not ashamed of that. I've understood how my brain works, and I'm able to, for the most part, really get my mind under the authority of the Lord, okay? And, there are moments when I recognize the aspects of how it works and how I could be standing still, smiling at you, having a conversation, and my mind is running a mile a minute. I've got multiple monkeys going on and thinking about all the different things that I need to do. And I just need to like connecting a hose and letting it all drain out. It will come back if it is so important, if it's something that needs to be taken care of, it will come back. Okay. So those are things that have been helpful, but asking across the four pillars, where do you feel the most fear coming in about those things, physical, spiritual, emotional, mental, when you're connecting to your body? Like, hey, I'm afraid that this is going to happen, and which pillar is being impacted? And what is rest actually asking of you? I'm telling you, rest is not asking a lot of you. Rest is like, please be my best friend. Please join forces with me so that we can work together and adjust. That fourth step of the Body OS framework is adjust. And that's by choosing one small, unproductive pocket of rest this week and protecting it the same way that you would protect any appointment. See, it's so easy for me to know when I have somebody on the schedule, I have a guest coming on the podcast, I'm ready for it because it is scheduled, it's on the calendar. But when I'm recording solo episodes, I don't protect that same pocket of time. I'm like, "Oh, I can record it at midnight. I can do it." No. I need to get it on my calendar. This is on my calendar. This solo episode is on my calendar because what I found is when I'm holding myself to the same level that I would want others to protect the time if I'm going on their podcast, right? I don't do the same thing for me. So I'm learning to protect these pockets of time and protect these spaces. So have that protective time. And again, the plan does not need to look the same every single day. Okay, please. So, in closing, I want to just remind you that rest is not the absence of faith, it is the proof of it. When you stop, when you trust that everything will still hold, you are living out of that same trust that God asked of Israel in the wilderness, one day at a time. And that is the whole heart of this entire series, that your body was designed and not defaulted into existence. It is a temple and not a machine. And it was made to rest, not just produce. We are called to rest in the moments with the Lord. We don't have to be producing all the time. This is not because you earned rest or anything, but because rest is where trust becomes peace. So if you are having any difficulties of any signals going on, maybe they're shouting in your body, you feel just so disconnected and you're like, okay, but I'm having a hard time with rest and laying things down. And, I can't even make sense of this. I want to just encourage you to head over to the show notes. I have a body signal decoder assessment. So, what this is the top 8 signals that the body is giving off, whether that's hormone changes or stress signals, sleep disruptions, morning fatigues, things like that, that could be causing some disruptions in your day. Go over there and check out the body signal decoder. It will help you really sort through some of this. And it gives you a framework. It gives you the pause, connect, ask, and adjust framework to allow you to work through it with your personal needs and gives you suggestions on certain things on how to work through this, not as a concrete boom, 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 step 1, 2, 3, 4. I know. Okay. High achieving women, we want the steps. We want just give us exactly what we need to do. That's not how our body works. Our bodies are so diverse. So, not to say that to overwhelm you or cause you more pressure, but just to simply look at maybe what might be available or what your body might be communicating, and a lot of different reminders to get you anchored into that. So, I pray you have a very, very blessed week, and I will see you on the next episode with a dear friend of mine. And I can't wait for you to be able to check that out. So, on that note, I will talk to you next week.